This broadcast is made possible by the friends and partners of LibertyNetwork.live. We thank you for your support.
Well, good evening, everybody, to another Wednesday night. I have an actual bio that I'm going to read, but I want to say Aaron's dad, Avi, we've known for a long time. Avi was this crazy guy in the 90s who kept warning everybody, like, hey, Islam's going to be a problem and everybody should know, and I bet they attack the United States, and actually in New York City you should be on alert. And then all of a sudden he looks like a prophet in 2001. And I have listened to your dad so many times. We brought him onto campus at UCO a number of times. And the one thing about Avi is that he is so full of knowledge that you can't, I don't think it's possible for him. His intro usually, background of just catching up on things, is about an hour, and then he gets in about a 2-hour thing of just go. And so, anyways, but it's wealth of knowledge and it's awesome. And he still gives, I think, Middle East updates on YouTube that you can find, which are well worth the time, because again, he's very, very well versed. But tonight we have the honor of having his son Aaron, who is an archaeologist and just knows. His field of study and his academic work is incredible, and also I think he'll be given an update on what's going on overseas, because it's kind of hard to know what's going on, but we actually have some a good resource here with us tonight. So let me read his bio and then introduce him. Aaron Lipkin is a Bible Israel lecturer, researcher, and tour leader who brings scripture to life through the physical landscape and archaeological discoveries of the land of Israel. He has been involved in a major field discoveries in biblical Samaria, including work at Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal, where he played a leading role in the discovery of an ancient lead tablet bearing the earliest known Hebrew inscription containing the divine name. Aaron is a longtime member of the Manasseh Hill Country Survey, founded by the late Professor Adam Zertal, serving as the team's aerial drone photographer and documenting archaeological sites from a unique on-the-ground and aerial perspective. In an academic and cultural climate where the historical reliability of the Bible is often questioned, Aaron lectures present archaeological and geographical evidence that affirms the biblical narrative and equips believers with tools to respond thoughtfully and confidently to skeptical claims. What I love about that is that all of the times when you're talking to an atheist and you're trying to sit there and point out all of the archaeological facts that prove the Bible, again, we got someone here tonight that helps actually give us all what we read on the internet. He's the one who's actually writing and discovering those things. So it is our great honor that we have Aaron Lipkin with us tonight. Aaron.
Some technological things. 1 second. Let me just connect this. Make sure that we're good. Okay, we're good. Shalom to everyone. Thank you for coming. And my wife and I just landed 2 hours ago from Boise, where we spent a week. Before that, we were again in Oklahoma City, and before that in Nashville and Kansas City, and we started in Dallas. So we're actually about to finish our visit to the United States. We're flying out on March 11th, again, depending on the situation in Israel, because right now the skies in Israel are closed due to the war with Iran. And who knows, maybe they will open it by then. And if not, I told my wife that we will have to find refuge somewhere else, maybe the Caribbean, Hawaii. But my wife is like, no, Passover is getting closer. We have to clean the house. So we'll see. We'll let God make the decision. And we've really enjoyed our time here in the past 3 weeks. One of the major events that we participated in was in Nashville, Tennessee. We participated in the first Judeo-Christian Zionist conference. I don't know, I still don't know exactly what's going to come out of it, but what we saw in the room was Jews and Christians coming together to hold hands and unite and start working and fighting what Israel calls the Eighth Front. And the Eighth Front is millions, billions of dollars that are poured in to the academic system, the culture, the arts, with the aim of dismantling the Judeo-Christian civilization and values. This is, again, something that my father has been talking about for many years. And we have two elements that are trying to basically bring down our Judeo-Christian world. That's Islam on one hand and the woke left on the other. And so what we're going to do now is I'm going to touch Islam just a bit because I know that there are many people that want to know what's going on in the Middle East. But my main topic, and you'll understand what I'm saying in a few minutes, is to also understand that we have a very strong foe in the academic world with a very strong agenda against the Bible. But we'll get to that in a minute. I do have to say a few words about my family. We went through 2 years, very difficult years in Israel since October 7th. I think one of the biggest disasters that Israel ever experienced. And a month after the October 7th, they actually called me out for reserve duty. Now, keep in mind, I'm 50 years old. I was kicked out of reserves about 5 years ago for being too old. And a month after October 7th, they call me up and say, Aaron, we need you. So I actually spent half of the time guarding my town in Samaria, the biblical heartland of Israel. And then the other part of the reserve duty, I was part of an intelligence unit in Jerusalem because I speak Arabic. So they needed my qualifications, and I really enjoyed the time there, and it gave me very strong perspective of what's going on in the Middle East, which is a topic that I like, but I don't speak about. So hopefully the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a very short Middle East update, and then go into my main topic, which is biblical archaeology. How's that? Okay. So, as you all know, the last Saturday, Israel and the United States attacked Iran. The attack started with basically the destruction of the entire Iranian leadership, political leadership, including the supreme leader Khamenei. You have to understand, this is something that we still don't understand, we don't grasp what that means. As Israelis, we've been living with this threat for so many years, and suddenly the evil guy, the Haman, that is leading this initiative to destroy the little Satan, Israel, and the big Satan, America, as they say, as they shout in their demonstrations, now something totally changed this situation. What we're seeing since then are several things that are happening. First of all, Iran is just basically, in a way, committing a suicide. They're shooting missiles at everybody. Now, you probably hear the missiles about the missiles falling in Israel, but just so you know, more than 60% of the missiles actually hit the Arab Emirates, believe it or not. Missiles are flying into Jordan, they're flying into Iraq, they're flying into Kuwait, into Qatar. Qatar was an ally of Iran. And today, into Turkey. Okay? And Turkey is already almost Europe, part of NATO. So this is you see that the Iranian regime is very desperate. Another thing that we're hearing, this is already the next stage, but we're hearing that the air defenses of Iran are totally gone. The Navy is gone. The Air Force is gone. And Israel and America are targeting the Iranian forces that belong to the security forces that could take down any demonstrations from the Iranian population. And we all understand why. America and Israel don't have a very good record in replacing regimes. So I think that the plan is right now is to try and replace the regime from within. So we're definitely hearing reports about weapons and ammunition going into different parts of Iran by Mossad agents, maybe even the CIA. Just today, they reported that the Kurds are receiving weapons from the United States and are getting ready for an invasion into Iran from Iraq. So there's definitely several steps that are being taken in order to bring down the regime from the population inside without having boots on the ground. So that's very important. I'm just going to go very quickly. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have it became a regional clash. Iran is shooting missiles at everybody. We have drone attacks against Israel and other countries in the area. The drones are really the biggest nuisance, I would say. It's really hard to take them down. However, I did see, I don't know if you guys heard, but Israel just invented a new weapon. It's a laser shooting type of weapon, and we start seeing videos of missile launches and drones that just fly in the air, and it's like Star Wars. So that's going on, but it's still a weapon that is hard to bring down, and we have, as I said, severe leadership losses. We just yesterday, I believe, it's so hard to follow all the news. Just yesterday, Israel bombed the Ayatollahs that convened in order to nominate a new supreme leader. So that's like 80 Shiite radical mullahs that are gone away with, and so the message is very clear. Don't replace Khamenei. It won't finish well. What else can we say? As I said, roughly 50% fewer launches each day. Israel is actually considering going back to normality. So the skies might be open next week. I hope not. The educational system, people are going back to work. Everything is starting to reopen. I don't know if you know, but we just celebrated the Feast of Purim in Israel. And so even though we had sirens and we had people running into the shelters became, party clubs. That's where all the fun was going on. So that's also happening. Decline in missile launching. What else? We have threats by the Arab countries that are being targeted by Iran to join the fight against Iran. And so Iran is threatening them back, saying, be careful, don't attack us. But this is quite a big deal that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other countries are not just saying that they will join, some of them maybe have already joined, like Qatar, that said that they attacked Iran already. What else? As I said, Israel is attacking the forces like the Revolutionary Guard to try and weaken them and allow an internal revolt against the Iranian regime, giving arms to the Kurds, and I think that's enough. Again, things are just all the time happening, so we need to keep getting updated about them. My father turned 77 years old, Avi Lipkin, and his request from us was that we do pictures of the family for him as a present. Do you want to see my family? Okay, so this is like a wartime album. So so ready? So that's my oldest son, Evyatar. He's in the medical corps. This is Dror. He's in the Air Force, Israeli Air Force. This handsome guy over here was in reserve duty. And this is Sarah, my daughter, who is a squad commander at a basic training facility in Israel. And isn't that a beautiful picture? People think it's AI, so it's not. It's real. Actually, the photographer asked my daughter to stand here to hide my belly. So, but we all know who the real commander is, right? Oh, there we go. Right here in the center, my beautiful Yemenite queen, Etty. And just to see all the family, as well as those that are not soldiers. So again, Sarah, the squad commander, Eviatar, Dror, Rachel, Tzvia, and my new daughter-in-law, Hila, who married my oldest son, Eviatar. So, we're calling them every day, worried, how are you going through all these sirens? And they're like, we're used to it. So it's like 2 years they've been gone through this, so they already, have an immunity to it, so to say. So after this short update, let's go to the main topic of tonight, which is biblical archaeology. I want to start with a short testimony. I grew up as an Israeli Jew in Jerusalem. My family was traditional, which means that we believed in God, believed in the Bible. We're very respectful of the heritage of the Jewish people. Actually, when we would visit my grandfather, who was an Egyptian Jew, we would in the living room, sometimes he would just pray in the living room in Arabic. I remember it as a kid, sitting there and seeing my grandfather pray to God in the living room, and that really affected me. For me, God was always present, is always there. I could talk to him wherever I want, even in the living room. At the same time, growing up in Jerusalem, my parents bought me a series of the Bible, animated for children. And I remember reading through the Bible, loving this book. And when I read the stories, I was literally there with the biblical characters while they were going through the events. I was there with Abraham and Isaac on Mount Moriah. I was with Ezekiel when he had these revelations. For me, the Bible was a real book, a book that described real historical events. It was part of my heritage. I loved it so much. And so when I went to learn in my elementary school, we had Bible classes there. I know that in the public system here in America, it's a bit problematic, but in Israel, everybody learns Bible, but there's just one difference. When you learn Bible in a religious school, then you learn it from a faith-based angle. When you go to a secular school, you learn the Bible basically as a book, like any other book. And that's something that I wasn't ready for. When I got to high school, it was the first time that I confronted a new way of learning the Bible that I didn't know, never heard of. I remember going into my high school class, my Bible class, and my teacher stood in front of us and said that we're going to learn the book of Genesis. And I was obviously very happy because I knew Genesis very well. And then she said that the book of Genesis, the first chapters of creation, are basically pagan mythologies that were taken from Assyria and Babylon and were twisted and manipulated to fit monotheism. I'm standing there, and I have no clue what she's saying. What God, creation, 7 days, what are we talking about? Now, the problem was even worse because with me in class, 90% of the students were not religious. They were not even traditional. They came from atheist families, and they didn't know the Bible. So their encounter with the Bible was what the teacher was telling them. I was totally shocked and actually developed a lot of anger towards my Bible teacher. That doesn't sound very good, does it? But since then, every time I lecture, I take revenge in my Bible class teacher. So anyway, left high school, finished high school, joined the Israeli army, served in intelligence, very interesting service. There, but the most important thing is that's where I met my wife, Esther, who's sitting there. We were both soldiers in the same army base, and she saw this handsome soldier and immediately approached me and asked to date me, and I agreed. And so we dated for several months, and then after about a year, she proposed, and I said yes. I was a bit disappointed. I was, waiting for something more romantic, like at the beach, roses on the sand or something, but it didn't happen. So anyway, we got married, and we have 5 children, as you saw, and we moved from Jerusalem to the biblical heartland of Israel, Samaria. And there, I actually started working with an archaeology team headed by Professor Adam Zertal. I want to talk a bit about Adam Zertal. He was born and raised in Kibbutz Ein Shemer. The kibbutzim in Israel are known to be atheist and socialist. And so when he learned archaeology in the university, he learned archaeology the way that criticizes the Bible, that says that the Bible never happened. The story of Joshua, Moses, the Exodus never happened because there's no proof. And so he learned archaeology, became a professor, got wounded during the Yom Kippur War in 1973, but continued on his studies until he completed his archaeology degree. And in 1978, something major happened in Israel archaeologically. There was a decision to give certain areas to several professors of archaeology to start doing an emergency archaeological survey. Okay, crash course in archaeology. You all know what an excavation is. An excavation is when you excavate from top to bottom, you document the different layers, and whatever you find, you document, you file it, you analyze it, until you get to the bedrock. That's an excavation. What's an archaeological survey? An archaeological survey is basically 10 people, 15 people, 20 people walking and looking for ancient remains, walls, pottery, glass, coins, anything that's on the ground. In other words, no excavation. And the purpose of that is to map complete areas and note those locations on the map. So you walk, and I actually have some pottery shreds here that I brought from Israel, from Joshua's altar on Mount Ebal. And you find these, you look at them, and the archaeologists know how to date a piece. This is an Israelite, sorry, can't say Israelite. This is a early Iron Age period piece. You mention it on the map, and you continue on. And that way you create a map of all the ancient sites that are in a certain area. And so Adam Zertal and his crew received the Manasseh tribal area and the Jordan Valley. Now you have to imagine, this is not an excavation where you dig. This is something that you walk. And Adam Zertal had crutches because of his wounds. So imagine this guy walking for miles, hundreds of miles, thousands of miles every week, looking and mapping the different sites. This is something that I believe he should get a prize for from Israel, because the survey that Adam Zertal and his crew did is really historic. Adam Zertal passed in 2015, and his crew continues on until today to survey the biblical heartland of Israel. It's still ongoing. And his crew basically, again, walk, they see pottery shreds, they analyze them, and they map, and they write books upon books of the different sites that they found. So these are the survey volumes in Hebrew, and you can see a map of the area that they are in charge of. So we have the tribe of Manasseh. This is the Jordan River right here. This is the Galilee Sea. And we're talking about this area and the area of the Jordan Valley. Now notice, you see this area right here? You see this? This is Jericho right here. Now, why is that important? It's important because one of the claims of the minimalist school of archaeology is that the Israelites never invaded Canaan. The Bible is very clear. Joshua mentions that the Israelites crossed the Jordan River in the area of Jericho, and they conquered Jericho. So that means that there needs to be proof for hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even more than that, crossing in the area of Jericho around the period of the late Bronze and early Iron Age period, around the year 1300, 1400 BC. And the problem is that archaeologists went to the area of Jericho and they couldn't find any proof. Now that's a problem, okay? So they came out and said the Israelites never really invaded into Canaan like what's written in the Bible. What really happened is that the Israelites were Canaanites. They came from the major Canaanite cities after revolting against the Canaanite lords. They ran away to the west, to the highlands, the mountains of Judea and Samaria, and that's where they established the Israelite kingdom. This goes totally against the biblical narrative. Why are they saying that? They're saying that for two reasons. One, they have an agenda against the Bible and God. Okay, they want people to think that the Bible is not true. The second reason is, as they mentioned, no evidence, didn't happen. That's their logic. There's only one problem, and that problem is that the area of the Jordan Valley was never really researched thoroughly. It is an area that is uncharted. Now, Adam Zertal and his crew go into uncharted land, and they start mapping the area. Keep in mind, they don't believe in the Israelite invasion. They don't believe that Joshua ever existed and that this whole story of the conquest really happened. They're just going into the field without any preconceptions and mapping. And they're mapping sites from the Chalcolithic period, which is thousands of years ago, 5,000 years ago, all the way to World War I. That's a big historical scale. And what's interesting is that they're discovering thousands of sites that were unknown, that were uncharted, that were never researched. And what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on the period that I just talked about, the period of the settlement. Ready? Okay. That's me with Professor Zertal. That's me. I'm the drone photographer of the survey. Let's start. So first of all, in the late Bronze Age, we're talking about roughly the years 1500 to 1250 BC. The area of the Jordan River is totally empty. You see these 2 points? These 2 small dots? These are the only settlements, or not settlements, just like something that was created by humans. These are just ancient tombs that were here. And that's it. The Jordan River, the Jordan Valley is empty. It's a desert. No one wants to live there. When we move to the next period, we're talking about the early Iron Age period, the years 1250 to 1000. We have an increase of hundreds of percents, thousands of percents. Suddenly, we have semi-nomadic settlements that suddenly appear in the Jordan Valley. Now, this is archaeologically impossible. There's no explanation for this. Either spaceships landed there and suddenly from nowhere and created these settlements, or the more possible option, an invasion from the east. I'll show you another area. So this is another area in the Jordan. You see there are a few more settlements here in this area. And as we move to the early Iron Age, you see the difference? When Adam Zertal and his crew saw the difference between the late Bronze and early Iron Age period, they understood that something major happened here. And there's no other explanation other than the Israelite invasion into Canaan, as documented in the Bible. There's only one problem. There's one problem. The problem is that all these sites that you see here are not in the area of which city? Jericho. Where are they? They are farther north. Let's see if we have a map. First of all, before we get to the map, how do these dots look like when we're standing in the field? We're talking about sheep pens. These are sheep pens. Imagine the sheep and goats inside this circular stone installation, and the tents are around the circle. So you would find the pottery outside of the circles, not inside. So this is how these dots look like. They're clusters of sheep pens. So where are they exactly located? This is a map of Israel. What we see here is the Dead Sea. We see the Jordan River. Jericho is over here. And the Bible describes an invasion in this area. The majority of the settlements that we saw, the semi-nomadic settlements, are located north of Jericho, in this area. So how do we settle the archaeology with the verses? And here's a question to you. Let's see who knows the answer. What miracle did we have when Joshua came into the land? The Jordan River, right? Where did it stop? At the Dead Sea. That's what I thought too. Because that's the area where Joshua crossed, right? Wrong. The verse is very clear. The water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam, in the vicinity of Zarethan, where the water flowing down to the Sea of Arabah, the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. This is the verse. Where did the water stop? It didn't stop in the area of Jericho, as we all thought. It stopped at the area of Adam. Okay, Adam is identified with the Jordanian town of Damya. So if the water stopped here, then the river of Jordan was totally drained all the way to the Dead Sea, enabling anyone on the east to cross at any point from Adam southward. Suddenly, the archaeology and the Bible start working together, because what we actually have now is not just a clear understanding, a clear proof of the Israelite invasion into the land of Israel. We actually have more information that the Bible doesn't tell us, and that is that the majority of the Israelite population crossed north of Jericho. So who crossed in the area of Jericho? My theory is that we're talking only about Joshua and the men of war, the soldiers. Okay, the Israelites are going into the land in the area of Jericho to do what? To fight, to conquer Jericho. So they're not going into that area to settle. You won't find any archaeological evidence in the area of Jericho because they didn't settle there. Jericho was actually not conquered, it was totally destroyed. Remember? God says, destroy Jericho. They didn't settle there. Where did they settle? They settled in the area north of Jericho, according to the verse in the Bible that says that the water stopped north of Jericho in the area of Adam. And this is the exact area where Adam Zertal is finding all these settlement points, these semi-nomadic camps. There is a special area here. You see this riverbed? Right here, this is the Tirza Valley. And the Tirza Valley is very important because it's It's the main road from the Jordan Valley going up to the city of Shechem. When we read about Jacob crossing the Jabbok Pass, fighting the angel, remember that when he became Israel? And then he meets Esau, and then he goes to the city of Shechem. So Jabbok is right in that area, and you can imagine Jacob and his family walking through this valley and going to the city of Shechem. So this area is really the area, the hot point of all these settlement, semi-nomadic camps that I told you about. Another thing that Adam Zertal discovered in his survey is probably the most important archaeological discovery, but this is not the topic of our lecture today. That is Joshua's altar, as it's described in Joshua 8, the building of a stone altar on Mount Ebal. But the important thing is not the altar itself for our topic today. What's important for us is something else. Around Joshua's altar, there's a huge wall, and the wall is actually something that Adam Zertal encountered several times during his survey. He didn't just find these semi-nomadic camps that we're talking about. He also found huge structures, huge. We're talking about a football court, football, how do you say? Yeah, I mean, that's something really big. It's not a small sheep pen, it's really big. And he called them the foot enclosures. What do they look like? This is the foot enclosure around Joshua's altar. You see the altar over here. And this is the wall that goes around the altar. Now, this wall was built during the time of the settlement period that I'm talking about. This is the archaeological sketch of this site. Let's zoom in just so you get a better, beautiful drone footage, right? I don't know who took that photo. He did a great job. So we see the altar over here. And we see this, the contour, the compound wall around it. So this was found. This was the first one that was found in 1980. We have another one that was found in 1985. This is in the Tirza Valley. Remember that beautiful valley that I showed you? This is in that valley. This is another picture of it. In 1989, another structure was found. This is probably the most impressive one, and probably the one that looks the most like the right foot. Okay, let's look at it for a second. We'll see that we have an outer wall that has an oval shape to it, and it looks like the right foot. We have inner divisions. We have a sacrificial platform, and notice up here we have the slopes of a mountain. Now, Adam Zertal is finding these structures, and he sees the repeating characteristics, and he sees this mountain, the slopes of the mountain, as a place where people would sit and look at what was going on in that structure that he didn't know yet what it served. Here's a video of my Land Cruiser. I'm inside. The drone is on automatic mode. This is the Jabbok Pass on the other side of the Jordan River, and these are the greenhouses of the modern Jewish village of Argaman. And again, these are the mountains of Moab on the other side of Jordan. And what I'm doing now is I'm circling and parking my car near the Argaman foot structure. You see this wall? It's a very low wall. Now, if you come to, for example, an ancient fort, you see that the walls collapsed. There is a collapse of stone, so you know that the wall was higher. There's no collapse here. In other words, the original height of this a compound wall that we see is not higher than a feet and a half. It's really low. And so it's not a sheep pen. It couldn't be a sheep pen. It's not a military structure of any kind. Adam Zertal is really curious. Here's another photo. And what you can see is very interesting. You see that the wall that goes around here is different than the wall we see here. You see the difference? These are stones, I would say, attached to each other. Here we have some sort of a platform, a pavement, an ancient pavement. And here we have two walls of stone separate from each other with pebbles in the middle, allowing a person to stand and walk around the heel of the foot. Here's another video. In this video, I want to show you the sacrificial platform. This is how it looks like, and this was actually excavated by our team, and we were able to date this sacrificial platform to the same time that the foot structure was built. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this is 3,300 years old. We excavated inside. We actually found early Iron Age cooking pots, so it was dated very accurately. Let's look at the slopes. Remember the slopes I talked about? So let's look at the slopes. This is me and Eti standing inside the foot structure, and you can see the slope that is adjacent to the foot structure. Okay, you can imagine people sitting there and watching what's going on. Here's another video of Eti and I in the site. I have to apologize, but at that point, Eti was too tired and had to go to the car. So let's say goodbye to Eti. And I'm walking on the pavement, the ancient pavement, that leads to the second part of the heel, where you see this special wall. And Adam Zertal called it a procession road. Okay, and you can see how low these walls are. They're not tall. And Adam Zertal understood that part of the action that was done there was to walk around. Look at that handsome guy. Okay. And let's see another video of this structure, something like circular. You can see again the procession road on the heel. Why is it on the heel? We don't know. My theory, why is Jacob named Jacob? He grabbed who in the heel? Esau. Maybe that's the reason. Anyway, so we see the other type of wall, we see the sacrificial platform, and we see the adjacent wall. In 1993, another huge stone structure was found in the Jordan Valley. Again, we have inner separations. We have some sort of a platform over here. This was unfortunately destroyed by the building of an industrial zone on top of it, so we can't really excavate there, but that's what the survey found. 1996, another structure. We're talking about structures that are 5-minute drive away from each other. They're really close to each other geographically in the Jordan Valley. This structure is actually interesting because it has a procession road that goes all around. It's not just around the heel, it goes all around. So again, we understand that whoever built this used it in some way to walk around the structure. This is archaeologist Dror Ben Yosef excavating the procession road of Yafit. So let's summarize. Adam Zertal finds 5 types of huge structures, which he calls sandal structures or foot structures. And these are the characteristics. They're foot oval-shaped, procession road, inner divisions, a sacrificial platform of some sort. We have an amphitheater looking over the site. Some of these structures face east, not the structures themselves, the amphitheater. And this is very interesting, and I want you to understand the repercussions of this. The structures were in use from the early Iron Age period until the Assyrian exile, the Assyrian destruction that's described in the Bible. So we're talking about structures that were in use for hundreds of years. And these structures are mostly located in the area of the northern kingdom. Remember, in the Bible we have Judah and Benjamin, and then we have the 10 tribes. So these structures are mostly located during history in the area of the 10 tribes. And so we have a clear indication that these sites were in use most of the time by the northern kingdom. So this clearly puts them in the, I would say, category of an Israelite structure. So Adam Zertal is trying to understand what these structures are. They're not military, they're not farming. The only possibility that Adam Zertal could think of is that these are worshiping sites because of the sacrificial platform and the way that they're built in a certain symbol of a foot and the slopes of a mountain. These all show that these are worshiping sites. And the next things that Adam Zertal is doing as a researcher is asking question: why in the shape of a foot? The second question is, do these enclosures appear in the Bible? Okay, so let's try and handle the first one. Why a foot shape? Adam Zertal looks at libraries, at books. He looks at Babylon, he looks at Assyria, he looks at the Hittite Empire, and he cannot find anything that looks close to the structures that he found. And the symbol of the foot is not so important in these places. But when he gets to Egypt, that's when things start to change. He starts seeing the word foot, the symbol of the foot, appearing and reappearing in ancient Egypt. For example, this is a letter that was written by the king of Jerusalem to Pharaoh, and he says to him, "To the feet of my Lord I shall fall multiple times." The feet of Pharaoh are something that you should grovel to. It shows that you are a subject of Pharaoh. Here is another writing. Ammon-Ra shall cause the kings of Canaan to tremble and will scatter them at your feet. In other words, the enemies of Egypt are scattered at the feet of Pharaoh. Okay, that's another symbol of the foot in Egypt. We have another picture. This is a picture from a temple. We see Pharaoh Amenhotep stepping on the enemies of Egypt. So we have the different enemies. We have the Assyrians, the Nubians, the people from Upper Asia and on, and so we see that by stepping, by showing Pharaoh stepping on the enemies of Egypt, we're showing conquest. We're showing control of Egypt over its enemies. Have you ever heard of King Tut? Tutankhamun. So here are his sandals. And the sandals are very interesting. We see two captives with their hands tied behind their back. We see the 7 bows of the world representing the nations of the world. When King Tut would walk over them, he would literally show the superiority of Egypt over the other nations of the world. And more than that, because Pharaoh was considered a god in Egypt, there was probably some sort of a spiritual meaning to stepping over the enemies of Egypt. So, surprisingly, Egypt and the symbol of the foot are very much attached to each other, and that's very interesting. Israelites were in Egypt for several hundred years. So, let's continue on. if the symbol of the foot is important in Egypt, maybe it's also important in the Bible. Now, I'm warning you, after the following minutes, every time you will read the Bible, you'll see the word foot everywhere. I'm warning you. How does the word foot, in what context is the word foot appearing in the Bible? So Adam Zertal divided it into 4 categories: ownership of territory, the existence of the people, victory over enemies, and the symbol of God and the temple. So let's go through the categories very quickly. Ownership of territory: every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. This is in Deuteronomy. Joshua: so on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about structures that were built during the time of Deuteronomy and Joshua. Okay, and that verse of wherever you'll tread your foot will be yours is a major verse that repeats itself constantly in those books. So this is very interesting that we have this shape. We have the existence of the people. I will not again make the feet of the Israelites wander from the land I gave their ancestors. I will not again make the feet of the Israelites leave the land I assigned to your ancestors. So the foot shows that you are there and you're there forever. You're not going to be exiled. You're not going to be taken away from the land. Another category: victory over enemies. Remember Pharaoh with the legs on the enemies. So you know that he subdued nations under us, peoples under our feet. Kings will be your foster fathers and their queens your nursing mothers. They will bow down before you with their faces to the ground. They will lick the dust of your feet. Okay, the foot shows victory over enemies, just like it did in Egypt. And most importantly, it's the symbol of God and the temple. Exalt the Lord our God and worship at his footstool. He is holy. Heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you will build for me? So the feet are also the symbol of the feet of God. And the place where God resides in his temple, in his tabernacle. So Adam Zertal sees that there are plenty of feet symbols in the Bible, and that corresponds with the archaeological finding that he sees. And then the next question, which I think is the most important question, is can we find these structures in the Bible? Logically, if these structures were used for hundreds of years in the area of the Israelite kingdom, there has to be some hint to them. These are major sites. A lot of energy was invested into them. So Adam Zertal is opening the Bible and he's looking for anything that talks about worshiping sites dating from the time of Joshua and on. And there's one name that keeps appearing. Have you ever heard of this place, Gilgal? Now, I don't know about you. I always thought that Gilgal is a place near Jericho. This is where Joshua invaded into the land of Israel. In Gilgal, he circumcised the Israelites. That's where they celebrated Passover. And from Gilgal, they went to conquer Jericho. But that's not really what the Bible is saying. Because if you look carefully at the Bible, you'll see that the word Gilgal, or the place Gilgal, appears in several distinct places in Israel. The first one is in Deuteronomy. We have a Gilgal near the trees of Moreh, which can be identified easily with the city of Shechem. This is already inside Samaria. Another Gilgal is mentioned on the border between Judah and Benjamin. So this is near the Adumim Pass, Ma'ale Adumim. So already we have three distinct Gilgals: Jericho, Shechem, around the area of Shechem, and on the border between Judah and Benjamin. So it's not a name of a place, it's the name of a function. Okay, we have a Gilgal in different places. And so Adam Zertal is a scientist. He says, if these stone structures that I found are Gilgals, there's a good chance I'll find another foot structure in the area of the Pass of Adumim. So Adam Zertal does something that he never did before. Instead of walking to the area and surveying, he's opening his computer and he's opening Google Earth and he starts to zoom in and zoom out at the area that he believes the Pass of Adumim is. You think he found something? Can you imagine Adam Zertal and what he felt that moment? You don't have to imagine. This is what he writes in his book. I leaned back and my heart literally skipped a beat. This is what happens when an unknown desire, a hidden hope, a dream comes true. Before my eyes appeared the sight of a sandal or a foot, the shape of which was impossible to ignore. I sat in front of the computer, zoomed in and out the image, and the new thing did not disappear. No, this is not a mistake, neither a dream nor a hallucination. He describes how he doesn't say to his crew what he found. And he brings them on a field trip, an innocent field trip over there. And they see it, and they are so enthusiastic. They're so excited. They're walking around, and they're looking at the stones, and they're looking at the pottery, and they're dating this site to the exact time that we're talking about, the time of the early Iron Age period. So in 2013, Adam Zertal finds the sixth foot structure, and by finding it, also proves, without no doubt, that these structures are indeed the biblical Gilgals. He had a theory, he proved it. So, after doing that, Adam Zertal suddenly starts to think about things he never thought before. If the foot structure and the symbol of the foot is so important, maybe we can find it in places that are not in the Bible. For example, the Hebrew language. How do you say a feast in Hebrew? Anyone? A feast in Hebrew is regel. Regel literally means a foot. Okay, now as Israelis we don't think about it. We say regel because that's how the Bible calls it. The three feasts are shlosha regalim, the 3 feet. Okay? How do you say pilgrimage? Pilgrimage is aliyah laregel, going up to the foot. Okay, and we Israelis, we say it all the time. We never think about the real meaning of these words. Another interesting thing, linguistic thing, is another word for feast in Hebrew is chag. Okay, I'm sure many of you know the term Chag Sameach, happy feast. That's in Hebrew. So Chag, feast, means literally to walk around. Remember the procession roads? Okay, So we understand that walking around was part of the ceremony in these feet structure, these foot structures. We could also see it in the Bible. Afterwards, Moses and Aaron went and said to Pharaoh, "Let my people go so that may circle me in the wilderness." Okay, so circling is an important factor in the early Israelite worship. Here is a video, a modern video of a Yemenite Jewish synagogue. And we actually circle around the main platform at synagogue in different feasts. This is from the Feast of Tabernacles, for example. We hold the 4 species and we walk around the main platform and the Torah scrolls. And this is in memory of the walking around the altar in the temple in Jerusalem. So walking around, again, is very important. So, to conclude, the foot structures shed light on the beginning of early Israelite worship and religion. And now, the big question. Ready? If the Israelites revered the shape of the foot for different symbolic reasons, what about the most important city in Israel? Ready? We have the city of David, which is the original Jebusite Jerusalem that King David conquered, and we have the Solomonic attachment of the Temple Mount and the first temple. Amazing, huh? Maybe there are more feet structures there, we don't know, but every day we find something new in Israel. I want to conclude this lecture and try to understand what message we as Bible believers can bring from this important archaeological discovery. And I think that when the Israelites are building these foot structures, they are literally thinking or believing or imagining that these are God's footsteps and that God is walking with them. He's conquering the land with them. He is dwelling inside of them. That, I think, is the most important symbol of the foot for the Israelites. And I think that we should, as Bible believers, we should also take that to our lives, to believe that God is also walking with us. He is in our house, in our home, with our family, when we're at work, when we're at church. He's always with us. He's part of our lives, and he's fighting our wars with us. And I think that this is the big message that we are receiving from the ancient Israelites. Adam Zertal wrote 3 books. This book is about Joshua's altar. This book is about the discovery of the city of Sisera, the Canaanite general. And this is the book that talks about the foot structures that I just spoke about. And we offer these books over there on the table. And so I invite you all to purchase the books and give them to people you think need a little encouragement in their faith in the Bible. And I definitely highly recommend coming to Israel and visiting these sites personally, and actually standing there and touching the stones that the Israelites themselves touched. And so we actually have a tour that's coming to Israel this year in the fall. So if you want to check it out, this is a special tour with Pastor Dave Megara and myself. We're going to be leading the tour, and you can get more information at visitthebible.com. This is going to be a special tour because it's not a regular Christian tour. It's actually a tour that has both Christians and Jews together visiting the land. So I think it's going to be a very interesting experience. Thank you.